was the last time you watched a movie that isn't just entertaining but really crawling under your skin and force you to confront the darkest parts of your mind? And I'm talking about the movie which was written and directed by Coralie Farge. And as much as I liked Mikey Madison's performance in Anora, my personal Oscar would go to Demi Moore for the role of Elizabeth Sparkle in The Substance. If you watch this movie, guys, I really admire your courage. It's probably a torture to watch for a very empathic person, and if you struggle with severe anxiety, body dysmorphia or eating disorders, I would not recommend you watching that. It's really tough and you might find it traumatizing and triggering. When I watched it for the first time, I found it interesting. I was in a group of friends and I enjoyed the experience. When I watched it second time for that review, it gave me nightmares and made really nauseous at the time. This movie is disturbing for a reason, and I hope by the end of this video I'll be able to explain you why. And also I think this film is a gift for psychoanalysts, because it shows you the narcissism in its full force, how it slides from neurotic functioning to borderline functioning and then ended up in a full-blown psychosis and full break from reality. I think they did a great job showing the internal world of the narcissistic thinking. It showed you how addiction works. Addiction not only about the substance, but about the fantasy, people attention, and people admiration. To understand my video, you don't have to watch The Substance in full. I'll guide you through the plot points essential for understanding the psychological weight. We'll be moving through the plot, pausing to spotlight the psychological concepts. Before we dive into the substance, I invite you to do a brief exercise. I hope this exercise would help you get in touch with the main question of this movie.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself?
Let's take a moment and explore it together. Find a comfortable position, and if you feel safe doing so, gently close your eyes to focus inward. Take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax, and allow your mind to settle. Now, picture the better version of yourself, the you that you dreamed of becoming. What does this version of you look like? Are they more fit? Are they more confident? Do they have better habits, like waking up early or reading daily? Are they earning more money, thriving in their careers, or living with a deeper purpose? Visualize this person clearly. Where are they standing? Maybe they're in the office. Maybe they're at a peaceful home. Maybe they are in a party. Try to notice the details, the clothes they wear, the way they carry themselves. How do others treat better you? Are they admired, respected, or loved more deeply? Do colleagues seek their advices? Do friends light up in their presence? And now try to reflect. How is this better self different from who you are right now? Is it the strengths, the focus, the kindness? What qualities make them shine? As you hold this image, ask yourself, what do you feel toward your ideal self? Are you inspired? Maybe you're envious? Or perhaps you might feel intimidated? There is no wrong feelings, and there is no right and wrong answer. Just observe. Do you feel longing? Maybe pride, maybe resistance? Sit with those emotions for a moment. And then when you're ready, take a deep breath, and if your eyes are closed, gently open them. Hold on to this image of your better self. It's a powerful starting point to start exploring the substance. I love the beginning. Not a single word said, but we already know the story. Elizabeth Sparkle, Hollywood star, once celebrated, now cracked, faded, ignored. Birds are, people walk on this star. It became a regular stone in the pavement. Public memories fading, just like own self-worth. And now we meet Elizabeth, and we kind of know her story. The star told us everything. Elizabeth runs the show Pump It Up, and she just done with the show for today, and she goes to a bathroom where she overhears her boss talking about her, and not the nice things. He says that she's old and her ratings go low and he wants to replace her with someone younger. Not a nice thing to hear in the morning, right? And see how crushed she is by those words. Then we see Harvey, her boss, and Elizabeth at lunch. And you see how Harvey chewing the shrimps with his mouth open. Juice dripping out of his mouth. It's like just disgusting. And I love that Coralie Farge said that this is the most disgusting scene of the movie, despite all body horror that would follow, because that's emotional violence dressed in normalcy. Harvey's telling Elizabeth that it's kind of time to move on, but he says it casually, like he would be talking about the weather. He does not pay attention to her feelings, he just saying that. And then he gets distracted and Elizabeth stays with the news ignored. How would you feel if you were Elizabeth? Is it sadness? Is it anger? Yeah, I would feel very angry. As human beings, we're wired to react with anger when we ignore it or emotional connection is lost. However, watch Elizabeth. She's sad, she's calm. And it looks like she experienced it not as an anger, but as a shame. She directed this anger inwards. So she feels it's her shame that she's treated that way. That's what in therapy we call narcissistic shame. And now let's leave Elizabeth here for a moment and talk about organization of the narcissistic personality. In everyday language, narcissist often carries a negative connotation. We feel like it's an evil person who gaslights you, who is egocentric, who's treating you like crap, who doesn't care about other people's feelings and obsessed with admiring themselves. But it's very superficial description. In reality, narcissistic experience is more common and normalized in our society than many other disorders. So it can be manifested not only in neurotic level, but also at the borderline or psychotic levels. Unlike other psychopathology, is often not innate, but conditioned, socially conditioned. These terms come from the ancient Greek myth of Narcissus, a young, beautiful man who loved to watch his reflection in the water and spend a lot of time gazing at that, and reject the love of the nymph Echo. Psychiatrist Williams describes a person with narcissistic personality disorder as someone whose entire personality is organized around maintaining self-esteem through external validation. It's not just someone who enjoys the prize. This is someone who needs admiration like oxygen, needs attention, needs admiration, and needs the feedback from others, because deep down they don't believe they're lovable without it. Narcissism often comes from early childhood, from parent-child relationships. Typically, it's a mother who sees a child as an extension of themselves. She sets high expectations, and when child meets those expectations, this mother feels proud of child's success and feels shame for child's failures. And from early on, child learns to perform, and this creates a gap between who they really are and who they pretend to be. Because if you pretend, if you meet their expectations, you're loved. That's the choice. However, if you do not perform, you're weak, you're useless, and you're at threat of dying, because we need another person to survive. We're born too early to be independent. A narcissistic mother does not see the child as a separate person. It sees just extension of herself. She needs to be a mother, and it's the child's responsibility to make her a good mother. For example, like those mothers feel the goal to feed the child. Child eats as they want them to eat. Otherwise, if they don't feed the kid, becoming a bad mother. So it's more care about if I am a good mother or if the kid really needs this food. And often it leads to different kind of disorders, including eating disorders. This dynamic leaves the child feeling unseen, constantly performing for approval, and disconnected from the true self. Picture is the most important, and other people are there to maintain this picture. We can talk about grandiose narcissists when I'm great no matter what, and I'm the best no matter what. And we can talk about vulnerable narcissists. I need you to admire me to survive. I need to know I'm doing good. I need your support. I need to be seen. I need to control the environment to stay safe. They might present differently, but organization is the same. True vulnerable part is rejected and everything is about the picture. Let's return to Elizabeth's story. She's driving home, and now she sees how the billboard with her image is taken apart, and her face falls down as workers ripped it off. She gets distracted and she gets into a car crash. She gets to the hospital, and then you see she's not happy that she survived. She's indifferent. And now the doctor recognizes her, and she bursts into tears because she knows that her fame is fading. However, now we see a mysteriously beautiful nurse who gives her a memory stick with the word, the substance. Looks like a seducer or drug dealer. What do you think? Now Elizabeth goes home and she is approached by her classmate. He intervenes into her space and introduces himself. He says that he admired Elizabeth all his life and thinks she is the most beautiful. He gives her his phone number, but at the same time apologizes that he's writing it down on his cholesterol results. But that's not a limit. Once he wrote it down, he drops this piece of paper into the puddle. Then he takes it out and hands to Elizabeth. What do you guys feel at that moment? How would you react? And see how she reacting. She takes this paper. She probably feels disgust. She probably feels shame that I am deserved only to be admired only by that man who gives me this piece of paper taken out of the puddle. And she cannot talk about her feelings. What would you do? Write down the comments. Elizabeth come home. Look at her Instagram-worthy apartment. Styled more for the pictures than for the comfort of everyday living. An oversized portrait of herself hanging in front and center. A bouquet of roses resting on a table for weeks without fading. As unreal as fantasy of being loved by everyone, always. Through the memory stick. And this is an offer she cannot refuse. To promise to make her young and make her a better version of herself. But it comes with a price. 1 week she is herself, another week a better version of herself. Respect the balance, and remember you are one. Elizabeth closes the computer, feels suspicious to that offer, and goes to celebrate her birthday. It's her 50th anniversary, and see how she spends it. She is drinking alone in a bar, and she is drinking to the level of intoxication. Is that how would you like to spend your birthday? Or maybe that's the way how you spend your birthday. The next morning, probably hangover and hollow, Elizabeth finds an announcement in the newspaper that there is an audition to replace her in her own show. And this is the final blow. And that was the turning point where Elizabeth decided to go ahead and use the substance. Now she travels to a very strange place. You see this basement? She needs to crawl under that door to reach this mysterious room and get the mysterious product. Would you guys go for it? Or you feel suspicious? And why such a low door? Why such a humiliating entry? It reminds me of Sultan Abu Masid, who purposefully lowered the doorway to his audience chamber so visitors had to bow to his majesty. Do you feel like this crawl is symbolically submission to promise to a transformation? Maybe. Okay, Elizabeth go home and injects herself with this substance. As a seasoned drug user, as she's so professional, like she's doing it every day. Okay, looks like something happening. Let's leave Elizabeth for a second now and continue with our exercise. I would like you to take 2 chairs. And if your space does not allow that, You can imagine yourself sitting on one of those chairs and another empty chair in front of you. Find a comfortable position and take a few deep breaths. Inhale slowly, escape fully, letting your body to relax. Sit on one chair representing your real self and picture your best self sitting on another chair. This is a you from our previous exercise, confident, driving, or fulfilled, whatever better means to you. Look at them closely. How do you feel about your best self? Are you inspired, intimidated, or perhaps resentful? How is it to be next to him or her? Do you feel compared to them? If so, who is comparing? Is it you judging yourself? A parent? A boss? Or society expectations? How do they change you just by being there? Do they make you feel hopeful, inadequate, or striving to grow? And now switch the chairs, either physically or imaginally. Embody your best self. Now you are your best self. Sit as they would. Feel their confidence or calm. From their perspective, what do you feel toward your real self sitting across from you? Is it compassion? Is it frustration? Is it pride? Or maybe this is shame? Maybe you want to forget you once were at that place. What would you tell them? Maybe you're stronger than you think. Maybe let go of shame. Maybe I don't want to know you. Pretend you don't know me. Imagine the real you respond. What do they say back? How do they think they feel about you? Do they resist, agree, or maybe ask for help? What would you like to do? Would you like to help them? Now come back to your normal self and let's reflect. Is there anyone in your life now or maybe in the past who have a traits of your best self? Or who treats you the way your best self treating you now? Maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's your parents. Hold on to this image and let's return to Elizabeth. Now we meet better version of Elizabeth. Call herself Sue. She is everything Elizabeth wanted to be. Beautiful, young, energetic. Somehow she has Elizabeth's memory, so she exactly knows what to do. Go and stitch Elizabeth back, give her fluids, and then she realizes she needs to take a stabilizer, a spinal fluid from Elizabeth's spine to keep her alive and stop her body from decaying. And as we remember, transformation comes with strict rules. 1 week for one, 1 week for other. And remember, you are one. Sue starts living Elizabeth's dream. She wears Elizabeth's clothes, but then she gets her own. Elizabeth easily goes through audition and gets Elizabeth's job. Harvey admiring her, everyone else admiring her. Everything comes effortlessly. Perhaps it is a fantasy. What do you think? But let's take a look deeper. What's happening inside Elizabeth on Sue on a psychoanalytical level? Freud proposes that human minds operate on 3 levels of consciousness. Conscious level, which you can know about it. It's your thoughts that here and now. And it's a very small fraction of the mind. Then it goes a preconscious level. First, preconscious level, its sensations, thoughts, or memories easily accessible when you focus, like forgotten name or forgotten phone number. Unconscious, however, is a vast and inaccessible realm where repressed desires, instincts, emotions, and traumatic memories are stored. It's driven by eros, like a life drive, or thanatos, the death drive. It's passion for destruction, passion for love, sex, hidden sexual and aggressive impulses, often labeled as sinful by the society. It's a lot of painful traumas, memories, everything you want to keep away from your mind is there. And in movies, it's often represented like dark basements, deep wells, bottomless water, evoking as irrational power. Now let's put some structural elements here. Freud identified 3 elements: id, ego, and superego. Id is the biggest part, which resides in unconscious level. It's irrational core. It's primitive drives, sexual and aggressive impulses, and it's governed by pleasure principle. Remember, when we talk about anora, we talk about biological needs, and that's where they are mostly resides, in id. If unleashed, it could be manifested as a chaos. It's violence, cruelty, and checklists. And when we see horror films and thrillers, you can experience those id urges. That's why it probably makes horror movies so attractive for some of us. The ego is what's actioning here and now. We have unconscious part of ego, but most of it is conscious. And it mediates between its impulses and superego demands and external reality. It deploys defense mechanisms and maintains the balance. And its strength determines the ability to act purposefully and adapt socially. A weak ego leads to impulsivity or neurosis. A strong ego fosters resilience. The superego is shaped by social and parental expectations. It's our conscious. It's enforcing moral standards and prohibition. In Elizabeth's case, she is suffocating under superego demands. Society, Harvey expects her to be young, perfect, and she cannot meet those needs. And this movie shows only that part of expectations. Later, when we'll be talking about midlife crisis and talk about the movie Barbie, we'll talk when those expectations contradict each other and you just fell down, unable to meet all of them. That's when the most crises happen. But in this case, Elizabeth crashes, unable to meet those expectations. That's why Sue, her ego ideal, who perfectly meets all the requirements and therefore can satisfy all her id demands, which probably is a social validation. Sue embodies its dominance. Her repressed desires are unleashed. She operates on a pleasure principle. It's uncontrolled id. Elizabeth, who feels shame, and Sue, who feels grandiose, is a representation of vulnerable and grandiose narcissism caught in a very fragile balance. Let's continue with Elizabeth's story. Sue has her week, and then Elizabeth comes back. At first, she enjoys her week off and she plans for Sue to come back. She makes some future plans, and she takes her things from her workplace, and she's trying to relax and enjoy time off. When Sue comes back, she becomes a carpenter, and according to the food that she used for Elizabeth, it took her 4 days to build a niche in the bathroom so that she can hide Elizabeth's body. And I think it's very nice representation of what's happening in the childhood when you close your vulnerable, rejected parts in a closet and pretend to be someone who is lovable. And I would like you guys to remember this image and bring it up every time you choose to be likable versus being yourself, like saying yes when you have to say no. Picture this hidden niche and as a reminder of the cost you pay for burying yourself. And on the 7th day of Sue week, she goes to celebrate with her friends and colleagues her youth and her happiness. She comes back home with someone she's enjoying having sex, but she feels time is up. She feels her body needs more stabilizer. So she goes back and takes more from Elizabeth and comes back 1 day later. She's breaking the mandated rules of the balance. Let's take a look on this story through the lens of addiction. What if the substance not a miracle substance as it portrayed in the movie, but a psychedelic drug, and Sue is just an Elizabeth hallucination? And Elizabeth spent a week laying high and dreaming about Sue. In addiction, consistent use leads to so-called tolerance. It's like when previous amount of drug is not enough to get the same effect. And it makes someone who used drugs use more and more of that, eventually leading to overdose. And I believe that's what's happening here. Sue overextension and refusal to switch back, it mirrors the behavior of someone addicted to drugs when they reached this tolerance level. When Elizabeth wakes up, she kind of dreams that it's from a nightmare, but then she realized this irreversible marks on her body, like her finger had some aging marks. It's what's happening is accelerated aging. And it's where resentment against Sue starts. Elizabeth called the supplier to ask if she can get her hand back, and supplier says no, that all changes are irreversible and you need to respect the balance. To recover her self-esteem, Elizabeth decided to make a call to her classmate and go on a date. She scheduled a date, put a nice dress, put the makeup. Do you like how she looks like? Wow, I wish I would look like that at 50. And she goes on a date, but she sees a billboard with a Sue image on it. So she feels resentful, she feels envy. She feels like everyone would compare her with a Sue. So what does she do? She goes back, she put makeup again. She tries to leave the house again. And the cycle repeats itself. She sees Sue, she sees her reflection in a door knob. She comes back, she puts more makeup, and more makeup, and more makeup. And you understand at that point her behavior is motivated by taking care of her emotions. She has no consideration of her boyfriend's emotions. He is texting her, but whom she is trying to please here, not him, but her own thoughts of herself. And that's very narcissistic view of life. She feels like she knows what he thinks, because she projects her thought into him. She feels blamed, but it's not her boyfriend who blames her, it's herself. And what is she trying to do? She's trying to satisfy her super ego versus enjoy the communication with other people, and specifically this, her classmate. I would like you to remember this picture and bring it up every time you feel hesitant to do things because other people do it better or other people would judge you. Remember, it's a high probability it's just in your head. Picture that. Sue also gets her nightmares. While filming her episode, she feels like she has a bulge forming under her thigh. And she's very concerned about it. And you see, it's a nightmare of any narcissist, like everyone watching her, like those people in the camera magnifying this small one imperfection on her. She feels seen, she feels exposed. For Sue, well, it turned out to be a piece of chicken that Elizabeth ate at dinner, and all of it turned out Sue's nightmare. But some people choose to spend all their life living in this nightmare. I say choose because this is a choice, and it's reversed by bringing attention to your process of thinking and deliberately choosing the other thoughts. And we will talk more about that in a part 2. Sue feels Elizabeth for eating greasy food, and she calls the supplier to complain about Elizabeth's behavior, but she gets a similar response as Elizabeth. You are one. Not long after, Sue is invited by Harvey. She expects the worst, but apparently he offers her huge opportunity, hosting the New Year's show. And it's a prestigious live event watched by millions. Thrilled and overwhelmed, Sue begins to rationalize how to take more time from Elizabeth. She needs time for interviews, for shootings, for rehearsals, whatever else. So she takes more and more time from Elizabeth. And when Elizabeth wakes up, she is terrified by what happened to her body. And you see, it's really terrifying. Now she has arthritis everywhere. Now her days are miserable. She's in pain. She feels really angry. She calls the supplier again. And she tells what happened, that she cannot do this any longer. Sue takes more and more time. And supplier answers her the same thing. There is no her and you. You are the one. But as a matrix, you always can stop the experiment. But at that moment, Elizabeth Sue the Vogue journal and Sue's picture on that journal, which is the top of the glory that she dreamed probably for herself. And she decided to continue with the experiment. And you see how Elizabeth is angry with Sue when she sees her. You see how she behaves. And it's a perfect model of a narcissistic mother that we talked before, who sees her daughter as an extension of herself, expecting to relive moments that she failed to live. But when the daughter lives through those moments, it brings nothing but resentment. And that's why for a narcissistic mother, nothing is more painful than her daughter's success. At those moments, Elizabeth acknowledges her anger. She's screaming, she's throwing things into TV, because Sue is a part of herself. And the only person she feels safe to be angry with is herself. And it's pure externalization of internal conflict Elizabeth used to live all her life. And Sue, in turn, also retaliates Elizabeth for cooking all those greasy dinners. She just takes a lot of spinal fluids and leaves her for months. This dynamic is a beautiful metaphor of self-sabotage. Imagine you work towards something important goal in your life. Let's say for me it was a dissertation. When you sacrifice your basic needs like sleep, food, relationships. On the important date you get sick, you oversleep, you forget something important. You think that's an accident. But remember, nothing happens without the reason. Elizabeth and Sue mutual sabotage mirror this, each undermine the other in the cycle of destruction. Now, New Year approaches. Sue has a boyfriend over at the apartment, and at that night she realizes she needs more stability. She goes to her shadow room. She takes more from Elizabeth, but nothing left. She's panicking. She's calling supplier, but the answer is very predictable. You need to switch. There is no other way around. Elizabeth needs to regenerate spinal fluid, and the timing is brutal. Sue is expecting to get this huge triumph she was working for, but energy is over. But she needs to switch, and with no choice she switches back. When Elizabeth sees what happened to her body, she's terrified. It made me feel really nauseous. I cannot hold this amount of anger that she probably felt at that moment. And at that moment, Elizabeth decided to stop the experiment and orders a termination kit. And she wants to reclaim her life, and she injects termination fluid into Sue's body. But in a second, she realized that the only way to get love, people's love, the only way they would love you is to be Sue. So she regrets her decision and tries to resurrect Sue, and astonishingly it works. To me, this is a perfect model of relapse. When someone struggling with addiction became sober and then fell into temptation and used again, let's say after failed detox. The termination represents a short-lived sobriety, mirrors withdrawal anxiety, and Sue resurrection, it's a compulsive behavior she gave in to. And it's a brutal metaphor for quitting addiction without proper support, self-awareness, or internal integration. Now, both Elizabeth and Sue are conscious, sharing a body, mind, but the space is too small. And it's kind of two-chair experiment we did earlier in this video, but how that would look for Elizabeth and Sue, with your dialogue with the best self. For Elizabeth and Sue, that's a confrontation. You see Sue's rage, and this is a rage accumulated for years, for not being able to meet people's expectations. That's a shame she feels in a conversation with Harvey at the beginning of the movie. That's a shame she feels when her classmate hands her this piece of paper from the puddle. That's represented by Sue's rage at Elizabeth. But see Elizabeth, it almost made me cry, how with her body deformed, and when the beauty is gone, how she keeps seeking validation from her ideal self, and how she's not getting it. It makes you even more angry, and she keeps kicking Elizabeth and finally kills her. Keep this violent picture in mind and bring it up every time you criticize yourself, when you think that you should have done better. Been a better son, been a better daughter, do better on a test, Live up to your ideals. That's what actually you're doing to yourself. Early in this video, I mentioned 3 levels of functioning, and let's talk more about that. First, it's neurotic functioning. That's where most of us operate. Our reality is shared, structured, and stable. We can experience anxiety, guilt, shame, internal conflicts, relationship issues, struggles with self-esteem, normal human problems, but we're pretty much functioning. Next is a borderline level, where the person tied between reality and chaos, where it's very unstable self-image, very intense emotions, and it's very difficult to maintain relationships. Everything is splitted and divided. Everything is black and white. Either good or bad, nothing in between. Boundaries very fragile. Defense is very primitive, and emotional turbulence dominates. And we even have a diagnosis called borderline personality disorder, which meets all those criteria. And finally, there's a psychotic level of functioning, where the contact with shared reality is lost, and person feels very much isolated and locked in themselves. Perception is very fragmented. Boundaries between self and others dissolved. You don't know what's imagined, what's real, what's the fantasy, what's reality. There is no language. Delusions and hallucinations emerge as an attempt to get some meaning and make some structure from this terror, isolation, and disintegration. And now let's take a look on Elizabeth's journey. In the first part of the film, she is functioning on neurotic level. She's struggling with rejection and self-esteem issues, but she's pretty grounded in reality. When Sue comes in, that's where we have this split, and that's where borderline functioning starts. Emotions all over the place. Self-image splitted. Everything black and white, divided, and no middle ground. And she's barely functioning. Now, as the conflict escalates and ego is destroyed, we move to the full-blown psychosis. And I loved how it's portrayed in the movie. It's less than 24 hours before the show when Sue's body starts falling apart because she needs a stabilizer. Have you ever had the nightmare of your tears falling out? I love analyzing dreams. And here I think this tears symbolizing a bite or ability to speak, or losing teeth might reflect helplessness, shame, or loss of agency. And it's all triggering our primary fear of losing control over your body, which comes from very, very early when we, as infants, were just learning how to move, how our desire is connected to the movement. And loss of it, pretty fundamental fear, which is triggered by that movie. So, Sue is deprived of stabilizer and her body deteriorates. She races home, but no stabilizer there because no Elizabeth anymore. And she finds an activator, which we remember you should use only once. Sue decides to become a better version of herself, and voila, she turned into a terrible, terrible monster. It's like pure id unleashed. They even call her Monster Eliza Sue. Monstro Eliza Sue. This scene honestly make me want to throw up. Especially when this Monster Eliza Sue tried to become beautiful, tried to wave her hair. She still have hair, she still has this desire to be beautiful, but the contact with reality is lost. So she takes a photo of Elizabeth and put it on her face, because she wants to be beautiful, wants to be loved. And she goes to the party, New Year Eve show. I would like to remember this image as well, and bring it up every time you think about narcissism. A monster behind the nice, beautiful image, who is ready to give up everything for this image. So she's going to the building, but you see, during psychosis, the boundary between imaginary and reality is lost. And it's very nicely shown here, when she imagined a lot of people applauding her when it's just an empty hallway. We often meet those patients in psychiatric wards with grandiose delusions or paranoid delusions and hallucinations. She goes on a stage, and I love that moment. Very concise and very powerful moment where Harvey introduces you.
She's my most beautiful creation.
how much weight this phrase carries. Yes, Harvey, that's the best thing you've done. For years, you were pushing unrealistic beauty standards, teaching women to reject their real selves in order to become lovable images. Remember this scene where Sue was chosen, what they said to each other.
Too bad her boobs aren't in the middle of her face instead of that nose.
And that's what they see now on the stage. A grotesque parody on their own ideals. What was supposed to be a dazzling triumph turns out a blood-soaked nightmare. As a monster Lisa Sue goes on the stage, she's trying to perform. People get terrified. And she's trying to dance, she's trying to sing, and she's trying to yell, "Hey, it's me, Elizabeth, it's me, Sue." But there is no words in psychosis, and she's staying until she blows up, and blood is everywhere. Audience scream, producers flee, Harvey and shareholders terrified, all covered in blood. Nightmare. Disoriented, broken, and bleeding, monster Lisa Sue crawls away from this chaos, dragging what's left of her glittery dress, costume, through Hollywood streets. Finally, she reaches Elizabeth Sparkle Star, the one that we met at the beginning of the movie, on the Walk of Fame. The cracked, neglected, and forgotten star. She lies across it, grasping. Her body melts into the pavement, becoming one with the stone. The next morning, a street cleaning machine washes her away, erasing the last trace of her existence. Before we finish for today, I'd like to introduce you one more idea from my favorite book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Dan Kahneman. The concept of remembering self and experiencing self. According to Dan Kahneman, there are two selves. One is remembering self, one is experiencing self. Experiencing self is me now looking in the camera and recording this video. Remembering self would be the one who will think afterward. Did I say that? Or did I say that? Or how I should put it together? So at the same time, experiencing you is the one who is watching this video, and remembering you is hopefully one who will remember those images in important moments of your life. Well, I hope it would be helpful. The experiencing self lives in the moment, feeling pleasure, pain, glory in real time. And remembering self is the one who creates a story of your life, keeps your identity, who you really are, is shaping memories based on key moments. Usually it's a peak performance and the end of the story. In a take-home exercise, in the description of this video, you'll find a booklet with few exercises that help you identify and get in touch with your experiencing self and your remembering self. So, let's think about the substance. I believe Sue is a pure experiencing self. She enjoys herself. She lives day to day without reflecting on it. At the same time, Elizabeth is remembering self, who only has memories, who has no experiences. She is just the one who needs a story. Sue is the one who enjoys the life, but Elizabeth is the one who makes a decision. And that's what's happening between our remembering self and experiencing self. Experiencing self gets all the enjoy, pain and pleasure of present moment, but remembering self is the one who is in control and making important decisions about the future. So what's happening here? At the same time, if you take a look on Elizabeth and Sue as two different individuals, each of them have experiencing and remembering self. So experiencing self of Elizabeth is pretty miserable because her experience is taken from her by Sue, and her life becomes more and more miserable with every week or every month Sue is taking. And in case of Sue, it's experiencing self who takes more and more days. Then you can argue that remembering self is more important. The way you remember your life is more important than how you spend day-to-day life. But I think that harmony is important and we need to respect the balance. This dynamic offers a lens to understand addictions and depression. Addictions happen when experiencing self rules, prioritizing instant gratification over long-term well-being. Like Sue refused to switch back, chasing higher fame. Depression happens when remembering self deprive experiencing self from joy, trapping you in a story of failure and shame, like Elizabeth did at the beginning of the movie. And then experiencing self split away and took over. And that's what finally destroyed Elizabeth. Unfortunately, Daniel Kahneman recently passed away. I'd be so happy to discuss this question with him. Thanks everyone who watched to this point. Thanks for joining me today. In the description of this video you can find the homework. First one, it's reflection on the exercise we've done today to get in touch and normalize relationship between your real self and ideal self. And second part is to identify and get in touch with your remembering self and experiencing self. Those of you who send me completed writable PDFs can get those t-shirts to remember that respecting balance in your life is a key. And I hope next week we'll continue to talk about the substance, but I hope next week we'll continue talk about the substance, but we talk about it in a more practical way. Like what would happen to Elizabeth if she addressed her mental health problems early on, and what to do if you found yourself in similar situations or similar thought patterns. So stay tuned and have a great week. Bye.